Hey everybody! In today's video, I am going to show you a little mini album. This could also be a card that is a reversible dragon scale pattern. Dragon scale is a form of bookbinding from ancient China. There are some absolutely incredible examples of this. I fell down a YouTube rabbit hole, and I'll link the video where I came up with a scaled down version. I'll link you to the video that I watched that helped me figure that out. I'll also have a PDF with the dimensions for all of the pieces that you see me putting together in this video. And I'm speeding up most of this because it is a very repetitive design. But let me tell you the basics. I am attaching hinges to an A2 size card base. And you can make this any size. The size absolutely doesn't matter, but if you want these exact measurements, I will have a pattern available because I did backwards engineer this for a card. It's very difficult to figure out from the larger video that I watched exactly how to kind of back that down into a card size. So I have done the work for you. Now, all of these smaller hinges are down on the card base, and now I'm going back the other way and I'm adding larger hinges to these hinges. So it's a hinge holding a hinge, basically. So one side of the smaller hinge is attached to the card base, and then the larger hinge attaches to the smaller hinge. And that is what is going to form the dragon scale mechanism, which is a fun kind of fan folding back and forth that's going to allow me to create a continuous scene on top of this. Now, a few tips for you. You need to use glue. Personally, I prefer this glue because it gives me time. It's kind of a slower drying glue. It's still fast enough for paper crafting, but it gives me a second more so than white glues do to move this around. And this is very important because you will note that I'm not a machine and it's hard to get every little thing perfect the first time. So having the glue to be able to move everything around really helps. Second thing, you want to make the hinges, both sets, out of a very, very lightweight paper. Do not use scrapbook paper. This is probably even a lower weight than I would use. This is not my normal ultra smooth copy paper. This is a thinner one, and you can see the bubbles kind of from the glue. It's no big deal. None of this is going to be seen. But if you want to use my regular copy paper, that's fine. Just don't go any heavier than that. I'll link that below for the copy paper that I typically use. I found this random package of weird shaped copy paper. It's like 13 inches by something that I must have ordered by mistake, and it's a little bit thinner. And that's what I'm using here just because I have a bunch of this stuff and I don't know what to do with it. So I built my prototype out of that and then figured out the measurements, and then I'm using it for the hinges, and you're going to see why this is really important. So next you want to pick either a stamped scene, a watercolored scene, a picture out of a magazine, a photograph that you've photocopied, or in my case, some scenic paper. Now, I hoard this scenic paper. It's so pretty. I never want to cut it up, and so this project is the perfect project for scenic paper. So if you too have a stash of this scenic paper, go get it, cut it up, and make one of these fun dragon scale mini albums or cards. You can use this either way. To me, it looks like an album, so that's what I'm calling it. Now, I am going to cover up as much of the white as I can because I'm using kind of a brown toned paper, and that harsh white can be a little bit much. So you'll see me throughout this kind of inking various edges, and before I finish it, put the final layer on, I'll also be inking the center. Now you'll want to cut your scenic paper to the same size as your card base. Then there are going to be different widths that you use to put the scene together. So on the first scene, I'm starting from the left. And the second scene will go from right to left-ish. So you'll see what I mean. But that first little bit, it is bigger. And so I'm going to put that larger piece of the scene onto that first hinge. Then I'm going to cut these smaller strips. And what's interesting about this technique is the size of your hinges will be the separation of each of the pieces of the scene that move, if that makes sense. So if you had a 1-inch hinge, then your smaller pieces would all be 1 inch. If you had a 2-inch hinge, they'd be 2 inches apart or offset by 2 inches. And then these little strips would be 2 inches as well, if that makes sense. So it's a scalable design. Again, the videos that I watched were these huge books that are just, I mean, it's incredible to look at. And there's one particular artist who does these magnificent, like museum style, historical, historically accurate dragon scale bookbinding that is just phenomenal. If I remember, I will also link a video of his work. It's mind-blowing. You won't even believe it. Much more complex than this. I've completely simplified this to the nth degree so that we can have a fun little album that's actually pretty quick. It took me about an hour for everything. So that includes filming the process, cutting up the paper, putting it all together, all of that. So it won't take me an hour the next time. And I will also, now I know what to pre-cut things to, which I didn't before. So it's actually a really quick process. You're going to be kind of amazed. Now you will notice you can see a little white on some of these edges. I do go back at the end and I ink blend those edges. You're not going to see those white edges, but that is why you want to ink blend. I recommend doing it before, but I'm kind of feeling my way through this process at this point and you're watching me do that. So I didn't realize how important that was to do the edges before I started, but I'll do them afterwards and you'll see in the photograph they just disappear. Also, again, with me not being a machine, you're not a machine either, or at least I hope you're not. If you're a machine watching this video, I would kindly ask that you leave immediately. If you're not a machine, you might have some things that stick up a little bit, or maybe they stick off the bottom a little bit. Maybe you didn't line them up properly with the glue. Don't be afraid to use your scissors after all this is said and done. When it's done, every little piece is very secure. You can trim off anything you need to trim off. It's going to stay together. So see how this goes the opposite way? So I start building my seam with a larger piece from the right instead of the left, because this is the reversible part. So this scene has a little bird and a nest on it. It's from the same paper series, which I'm really sorry, but this is retired. But I will link you to some similar ones. It's so beautiful that I saved it for so long it doesn't exist anymore. So this is a good encouragement for you to go out and use your papers before they retire so that if somebody else wants them, they can still buy them. So now you can see this coming together on this side of the scene. Take the time to really make sure you're gluing the right side down, especially if you're using two-sided paper. You can see me checking that my pieces are in the right place. And as I flip these over to work on them, you can see the mouse scene on the other side, which is kind of fun. So you're starting to see how this is going to be completely reversible. And you're not going to see this ugly copy paper. So if you're anxious about that, don't be. I am going to fix all of that for you. So here's what it looks like. Now, when it's at this stage with the copy paper, it's a little bit hard to flip back and forth because there's more weight on the paper edges and the copy paper is flimsy. So by the time we're complete, it's going to flip like a deck of cards. You're not going to believe it. But the next step is really important to that because as you can see, it'll kind of catch if you don't. So I'm going to go fill in all of this copy paper area with some of the same paper from the same set. And it's not only going to look beautiful, it's going to completely change the mechanism of how this works. So, first things first, we start on the bird side. It doesn't matter which side you start on, but we're going to start on the bird side and we're going to attach the larger piece here. Now, I decided to go all the way to the edge here, to the edge of the cardstock. So that leaves a little tiny gap, which I'll go back and ink blend. So don't worry about that little white strip. But in between each of these hinge openings, I'm going to ink blend that little area that's glued down with the hinge to the base with the cardstock. So I'm just going to add, this is very similar color, this vintage photo, to the color of the paper. So it just kind of all blends in. And even though you're blending on like weird 13-inch copy paper, that's not very great, it just all kind of blends together. It doesn't need to be smooth. It looks kind of vintage. It's very fun. But again, you don't want to use that heavier paper as the base for this, or really just, it will not work as well. So I keep going on and you can see I'm flipping through the bird scene, but the back of the bird scene is the mouse scene. And so you're going to see little bits of the mouse scene as I go through here. So ink blend, stick these down, and then these are a little bit smaller than the end pieces just because of the size of the hinge and the offset where I'm building my little scene at the edges of the tabs. But it's so cute to be able to see them kind of come together, and you're starting to see the little mouse as I progress through here. If you have pieces like this one that are kind of continuous, that's fun to look at on the inside too. But for an album, if you just wanted it to be kind of a neutral paper that you could write on or attach things to, you can do that as well. It also just makes a really fun card. You could go through and just stamp sentiments on each of these panels before you give it away as a card. It'd be a fun card for a kid because it's very mechanical and interactive, and that's always fun. So I'll go back down to regular speed here, put that last panel in, and it's just amazing how this changes the mechanism itself so that it's just an effortless flip from one side to another. So now you can see it just flips so easily because of that extra bulk, and it's not straining against that weaker copy paper, and those scenes just change. It's so much fun. I love it so much. You can think of a bunch of different ways that you can cut up artwork to make this work. So I hope you try it. Thanks so much for watching.